Alright guys, Tactical here, back again with another video, quicker than I expected to be. Today, Clayster put out a tweet last night talking about his ideas for the future of Call of Duty, what direction it should take to increase viewership. So it's worth discussing. I think a lot of pros disagree with Clayster on this, as do I. But you know, when a name as prominent as Clayster is talking about something as drastic as he is suggesting, it's worth at least discussing. So I did have a video on power rankings planned, but they'll come out in a few days' time. So I guess I'm back again with the second video in 2 days. So, you know, there you go. So, first of all, we'll go through the tweets. We'll see what he said. And then I'll break down why I may not agree with him. And, you know, if you do agree with him, then feel free to state your opinion down in the description box below. Because it's an interesting topic of discussion for sure. So first of all, Clayster said this last night. I say we play 5v5 next year. All maps, everything allowed. At least give it a shot to attract the 70 to 80% of players who only play pub TDM. Guarantee we'd see record-breaking viewership numbers. Not saying it would be competitive, but we've tried to make things as competitive as possible, and that's never really helped resuscitate the game. Anyone who thinks this isn't worth trying for a few months genuinely doesn't care about the game dying or not. My personal opinion, which has always been, is to use everything available in COD. As long as it has a counter, it's difficult to obtain, or each team can use it, I think it should be in. That's what makes COD different from other games, but it ends up watered down every time. Sniper Bob 420XX watched a competitive game and is confused as to why players aren't running flamethrowers, shotguns, Tommy guns or gas grenades, why there aren't smokes in every map, etc, etc, so they just resort to the pros can't play the real game and never watch again. But it's cool. I'll catch some heat for these tweets. In the end, we'll end up with 5 maps, maybe two, maybe 3 guns and a sniper, and no variety on attachments plate choices. COD is back, baby. Last tweet about it. If we honestly want COD to succeed, we need a dedicated developer making a competitive COD that gets an update every year but stays the same game. Add new maps, guns, attachments, perks, whatever to keep it fresh. Probably the only way to see big success. Okay, well, I just want a quick comment before I go into my analysis of the tweets further up. This seems a bit of a retraction, this final tweet. Because Clayster says here, if we honestly want COD to succeed, almost implying that maybe this is the true method and what I was saying maybe isn't. Then he says, we need a dedicated developer to make a competitive COD. And if we scroll up to this tweet, he says that his idea would, not saying his idea would be competitive. So he wants a competitive COD, but his idea would not be to have a competitive COD. And then at the end he says, probably the only way to see big success. Again, kind of implying that his earlier opinion might not actually be the way to see big success. So, you know, but he didn't put anything specific about retracting his earlier statements. And of course, he's left the tweets up. So, you know, we'll take it on face value. This, I completely agree with what Clayster says at the end. This is the ideal. But we'll go to his earlier tweets and then we'll see what we think about that, shall we? But take it with a little bit of a grain, like a pinch of salt, whatever they say. So first of all, is Call of Duty dying? Now, at the start of this year, let's have a look at the statistics for CWL Dallas, the start of the year. This is the viewership, 60,000 average viewers, and it peaked at about 120,000. We had great viewers at the start of the year. This is like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the scene would say, this is where you want to be. Like, if we can average 100,000 viewers every event, or not average, but like peak at 100,000, average like 60,000, that would be a great step forward. We had that at the start of the year. It's not like the interest in the game wasn't there. Then you fast forward to Stage 1 playoffs, it drops down a little bit. This is the Opticverse phase, peaked at about 100k, but the average viewers for the, okay, well the average viewers are a bit skewed because it's 14,000, but that includes the regular season. So just look at the peaks here, I guess. 100,000 peak. Then we go to Anaheim, average 30,000, and it peaked at about 75,000. So you can see it's on a slow downwards progression through the year. Now, why would this be? There's definitely new fans coming into the scene all the time. You look at the competitive Call of Duty subreddit, the sub count is going up all the time. It's going up, I'm pretty sure, according to the mods, I think faster than it ever has really. It went up really quickly during the Optic Gaming roster change drama. But now it's continuing to go up really quickly. Like, I think they used to average like 10,000 subs a year. This year they've already had like 12,000, 13,000, something like that. So it's growing quicker than it has in the past. It's not like there isn't new fans coming into the scene all the time, especially as games like Counter-Strike, they're getting a bit stale. There's not many new maps coming into play. I see quite a lot of posts on the sub, like Counter-Strike players who are interested in that, coming over to Call of Duty, another first-person shooter that they can easily relate to. And that's the key there, easy relatability for new fans from other first-person shooter esports, such as CSGO. They come into Call of Duty, do we want to put upon them this public match stuff? I'm not so sure. So World War II viewership has been going down and down throughout the year, there's no denying that. But is it because the game doesn't have the gimmicky stuff that we get in public matches, the flamethrowers, the trip mines, all of that, the shotguns, of course, the flamethrower shotguns, whatever, fire, dragon breath, whatever they're called. It's been going down and down. Is that because of that stuff, or is it because people don't particularly like the game? The pros don't seem to like playing it, because how many of the pros have really streamed the game this year? There's a few streams going on nowadays, but part of the reason why the viewership of the streams is relatively low is because people just didn't stream it at the start. Where has Scump been this year? Where has the Optic Gaming members really been for their streaming? When I got into Black Ops 3, it was watching Karma stream Black Ops 3 scrims for like 8,000 viewers at a time. I'm not saying it's their fault. If they don't enjoy the game, they're not obliged to make the content. Scump hasn't uploaded a Call of Duty related video on his channel for about 6 months. He hasn't uploaded a single video in the last 4 months. So the drive from the professionals to actually showcase the game hasn't been there. I'm not saying it's their fault, I'm just saying that people don't enjoy the game in general. Would they be streaming the game more if we had everything allowed? I don't think so. I think it's just down to the game itself. I think a big issue is the maps. Maps make or break a Call of Duty game. And in this game, we've got like 4 maps that are playable for Hardpoint, 4 for S&D, 3 for CTF. Then when you include vetoes on top of that, for the viewers, a lot of people see, I'm watching docks, forest, 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 then docks again. Like, I don't want to watch, it's so boring. And the maps are pretty bland, there's not much colour going on. I think that's one of the reasons why World War II has struggled, is definitely to do with the maps. What we really need, I think, is a game that's fun to watch. Because the viewership at the start of the year, here at CWL Dallas, was very good. It's exactly what you want. There was some hype about new teams, but mostly the hype was to do with new game, back on the ground. You know, hopefully, is it going to be like Black Ops 2? Is it going to be fun to watch again? And I think over the year, a lot of fans have realised it's not actually that fun to watch. I'll come back for Black Ops 4. What we need is a fun game to play and watch. We don't necessarily need all the gimmicky added on stuff. So, would this solution work? Now, first of all, I think maybe what Clayster doesn't see to a full extent is how much of a fan base we already have for the game. It might not be as big as other games, but, you know, there's still average 30,000 people watching CDB Anaheim and 75,000 people watching its peak. That's a lot of fans, and I'm sure there's a lot more fans in hibernation that are just waiting for Black Ops 4 to have a fun game to watch again, because I don't particularly like watching World War II. It would drive away so many of these fans, including myself, I'm sure of it. If I'm watching pros play effectively pubs, like 5v5 pubs, I'm seeing people get killed by trip mines, by dogs. I'm seeing someone put down a riot shield and head glitch it, which has got a guardian effect in front of it. I'm seeing someone chuck down razor wire on the floor. Like, whew, baby. Like, I don't want to watch that. That's not competitive. The best team is not going to win. I want to know who the best players are. I want to watch entertaining matches and players getting hyped up on stage with their team after they win because they've just outplayed the other team, not because they placed a trip mine better than the opponent and got a free cheap kill. Now, whether the trip mine has a counter or not is not the point. Things can have counters but still be unbalanced and overpowered. So first of all, it would drive away a lot of competitive fans. Are we going to get the fans in from the casual side to make up for that? Are they going to be the same type of people? Are they going to be the same type of die-hard fans that are just here for the competitive Call of Duty and love it more than anything? Let's look back at Black Ops 2. I think Clayster and a lot of other pros would say Black Ops 2 was a peak. Why was it the peak? It didn't have claymores, bouncing betties were banned, you couldn't use UAVs or Ghost or anything like that. So why was it so good? Would it have been better with claymores in the game? I don't think so. It was good because you had fun maps. People were streaming the game. The game was entertaining to watch. You had big personalities in the game. That you had rivalries with other players. Now, you know, trash talking and stuff like that I have questions about, because I think that trash talking brings in unsustainable viewers, because people just watch for the rivalries, and then as players mature over time, then those fans run away unless we keep the game entertaining in other forms. So Black Ops 2 as a peak, a big factor was league play. Personally, I got into the competitive scene through league play. I was playing public matches, fed up of dying to bouncing beddies and getting killed by a kid in a corner with a riot shield. So I played competitive to see, to prove how good I actually was at the game, but also to, get away from all the BS. And I think a lot of casual players will share this same mindset. Like Clayster talks about here, about Sniper Bob 420XX, he's not going to be the type of competitive fan that's going to invest in the game and go along to events anyway. If he's just a casual player that's just watching, or not even watching, he's just playing the game from time to time, he likes his flamethrowers and his shotguns, he's not the type of person we really want to recruit as a Call of Duty fan, if you see what I'm saying. There's a lot of Call of Duty casual fans who would be happy to get rid of bouncing beddies and claymores. We just need to incentivize them to try out rank play. Because when I tried it, I was like, this is a much better version of Call of Duty. I like playing league play way more than I did playing pubs. I liked the stuff that was banned. The game was toned down on a more simple level. It was who's actually better at the game. And that's really what we want to establish here. So we need incentives and a good league play system to get casual fans interested in competitive. Because that will happen, as it did in Black Ops 2, if there are incentives to do so, if the game is fun to play on a competitive level. And I'm sure there are a lot of fans who not only do they want to play a watered down version, as Clayster says here, because it's more competitive and it's more fun because you die to less bullshit, but also the casual fans are aware of why certain things are banned. Like my friends, when we started playing league play, it wasn't a hard time for them to understand why the UAV shouldn't be in the game. It's just free knowledge to the other team. You have to run Ghost to counter it, or potentially you shoot it down. And, it's just way too powerful for what of a low streak it was at the time. But it wasn't hard for them to understand why UAVs and claymores are banned, it's free kills, etc, etc. So that's why Black Ops 2 was so good. Now, adding on to that, are we really seeking balance in what Clayster's saying here? So he says it's not going to be competitive right here. Not saying it would be competitive. Okay, so are we playing competitive Call of Duty or are we not? Also, one thing to consider. Look at CSGO. CSGO is still being pretty hard to balance. Like the CZ, they're still playing around with that. The game's been out for 6 years and it's a pretty simple game. You've got your guns, then you have a flashbang, a Molotov, a grenade, a freaking smoke grenade, and like a defuse kit. There's not much stuff to balance, but it's still taken them a long time to make tweaks to maps and change the damage on the guns to make the game the perfect competitive game it can possibly be. It's taken 6 years. Imagine you put all of the stuff in the game from the start, which the Treyarch has put in, all the specialists, all the equipment you put on the floor, the acoustic sensor that is basically 6th sense on a minimap, all of that stuff, you put that in, how are you meant to balance it? It's hard enough to balance the game once you take out all the BS stuff, right? But with all that stuff in, the game is not going to be balanced for the first year. Even if things have a counter, there's going to be things that are very strong and things that are not as strong. And that's still the case when you get rid of all the BS. With the BS in the game, it's going to be absolute, it's a fest, put it that way. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll go back through Clayster's tweets and we'll apply what I've already said to see where he's right or wrong, basically. So first of all, this all maps thing over here, there's no reason to put all the maps in the game. You go back to Black Ops 2 and ask casual fans what their favourite maps are, they will say the competitive maps, Standoff, Raid. They might say Nuketown as well. You go through the other games, guarantee they'll say their favourite maps are the ones designed for competitive, whether they realise it or not. And that's because competitive maps, they flow well. There's other maps that are like Sniper Havens, designed for certain playstyles, but the maps that are generally designed for all kinds of combat and are balanced very well on both sides and don't have many ridiculous power positions are definitely the best maps in the game. There's no reason to play the Gustav cannons of this world. That's not going to attract anyone else in. Now look at this, okay. Attract the 70 to 80% of players who only play pub TDM. Why do you think those kind of players are the ones that are going to want to watch competitive Call of Duty in the first place? Whether having everything allowed is going to make them even more interested. Most of the casual Call of Duty players, they just hop on once or twice a week, play the game for a few hours at a time. They just kill a bit of time with it, a little bit of stress relief, stuff like that. There's no reason necessarily why they'll want to watch competitive Call of Duty in their spare time, because they're not mad Call of Duty fans, most of these guys. The people you want to attract are the people that play pubs at a high level. You want to get them interested in playing competitive in league play, and then they'll get interested in watching the game. The majority of casual players are not going to be interested in Call of Duty competitive, no matter what the situation is, as far as I'm concerned, whether claymores are allowed or not. How many people are really going to be from the very casual side of Call of Duty? Maybe they happen to stumble across the stream. What percentage of those are going to be absolutely devastated when the professionals aren't using trip mines, etc., etc.? The gunplay is effectively the same, and the best team's going to win. I don't really think this is the best target we can be going after, and I think the changes Clayster is suggesting to go after this target are way too drastic. Guarantee we'd see record-breaking viewership numbers. Maybe we'd see record-breaking viewership numbers from fans of other esports coming over to laugh at us for how ridiculous our esport is now. We're already effectively the laughing stock of esports because we play on console and we're the biggest console esport. People would be coming over saying, what has Call of Duty become? This tweet here, not saying it'd be competitive, but we tried to make things as competitive as possible, and that has never really helped resuscitate the game. Well, it's not necessarily because it's been competitive as possible that it hasn't helped resuscitate the game. It's the fact that people don't enjoy watching the game. If the game was fun, with good maps and exciting weapons, and good teams and some rivalries going on, that's what would resuscitate the game. It's not the fact that it's competitive that it's not resuscitated. You look at every other sport and every other esport, it's a very competitive game. It's not just because the game is competitive that the game is not resuscitated, because you look at any other situation in sports or esports and that is not the case. Okay, look at this tweet here. My personal opinion has always been to use everything available in COD as long as it has a counter, etc., etc. This is what makes COD different from other games, but it ends up watered down every time. Okay, yes, having trip mines and shotguns, fire-breathing shotguns in the game does make COD different from other games. But is that what we want in our competitive scene? There are other things that make Call of Duty different from other games, especially Hardpoint. I think Hardpoint is a phenomenal game mode. It's very exciting. It's a mode that no other esport can match, in my opinion. We don't want our game to be search and destroy only, because then we'd be overshadowed by Counter-Strike or etc, etc. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. But yes, trip mines make Call of Duty different from other games, but that does not mean that that is the element of difference that we should push to show that Call of Duty is a better esport than other games. Different does not mean better. Hardpoint and the fact that we have playing on console, first of all, there's a different skill involved. We have many different game modes across a series. The map switches very often. I think maybe CSGO fans to some extent, they have to watch the same map for 45 minutes to an hour, get somewhat bored of it. There's other USPs that Call of Duty has, especially Hardpoint, but I keep banging on about that, other than keeping the BS in the game. Okay, but it's cool. I'll catch some heat for these tweets. In the end, we'll end up with 5 maps, 2, maybe 3 guns and a sniper, no variety on attachments. Perk choices, COD is back. I agree, variety is an important factor, but I don't think variety in the guns and attachments and perks is really the necessity. I think variety in maps is a big thing. I think this game, World War II, as I said earlier, we really have struggled in the fact there's only 4 maps, and the fact that everyone vetoes Gibraltar every time means that series are very boring in terms of what the pros are playing. More guns is nice, I agree. I very much like the meta in Black Ops 3, where the M8 was good, the Shiva was also viable, the Man of War could be good on occasion, the HVK as well. Things were balanced very nicely and very cleverly as well. Maybe I'll do a video on how the balance in Black Ops 3, especially for the assault rifles, was so clever in order to make everything very balanced and very usable. I would like variety more so than now, but I don't think the fact just allowing everything is required. I mean, Clayster's idea here is to allow everything and then people will use more different weapons. I'm not so sure that's the case. If the weapons aren't balanced, then people are still only going to use one assault rifle, you know. You can allow all the assault rifles, but there's still going to be one or two, which is the best assault rifle. There's still going to be, maybe there's one LMG that people use if they're allowed, but there's still going to be one LMG, which is the best LMG. There's still going to be one sniper, which is the best sniper. There's still going to be a set of attachments, which is the best set of attachments, even if you allow everything. In the current game, basically all the guns are allowed, basically all the attachments and the perks are allowed, apart from maybe rapid fire, high caliber, whatever, but there's still very few things used. So it's a matter of balance, not a matter of how much stuff we allow. But map variety is very key. So this last tweet, this is the thing I agree with him most, as I say. If we really want COD to succeed, we need a developer making a competitive COD that maintains over the years. I think a big issue with Call of Duty is that by the time that our game is balanced and perfected, as it were, we're about 7-8 months into the game, and there's only a couple of events left. Think how much the meta has changed this year. We started with the FG, was it the FG? Yeah, FG42. I haven't said that word in so long, because it just hasn't been a gun, because everything gets nerfed and balanced. By the time everything's at a pretty good competitive level, it's so far in the year that the next game's already on the horizon. And I'm really hoping that at some point, maybe Black Ops 4 is the year. Ideally, what Activision need to recognise, because apparently they're putting money into franchising, whatever, what they need to recognise is that if Call of Duty is going to sustain for a long time, they need to take the model that other esports have, where you have one game. Let's say they remaster Black Ops 2, give it some new maps, give it some new weapons, make the game even better than it was originally. You remaster Black Ops 2, that is the competitive title. Then every single year, Sledgehammer and Infinity Ward, they make maybe campaigns, or they make something else, or zombies, that keep the casual fan base wanting to buy the game year on year. But the competitive players keep playing the same competitive Call of Duty. Because the problem is that the game isn't competitive for the first few months, and it drives away fans who liked the old game and now they don't like the new game as much, now they've disappeared. And are they going to come back with the next game? Who knows? Updating the game, keeping it fresh is very important, what Clayster says. I think that's what CSGO is suffering with at the moment. I think they're having issues with that. Valve don't like to add new maps into the rotation. So what you have is you have the same 7 maps in the rotation that barely ever change. They recently took out Cobblestone, added in Dust 2. The maps sometimes get overhauls, but there's nothing really changing about the game. And I think eventually it starts to become stale and people are less interested in watching it. So if Call of Duty can take a model like that and do it even better than that, I think Call of Duty has a really bright future. But my opinion is that Clayster's method of allowing everything isn't the way to take that forward. So anyway, guys, that's all I have to say about Clayster, I'm pretty sure. Maybe you'll see this video, maybe you won't, but let me know what you think about it in the description box below, or it's also known as the comment section. Maybe I've been too harsh, I'm not sure, but hopefully you think I was fair, and if I'm wrong, let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.